The origins of the vampire counts can be traced back to the origins of the vampire race. From the deserts of the far south, there once laid an ancient civilization that ruled unchallenged for many thousands of years. This ancient kingdom held the name of NAGASH, a mighty human civilization that was once the pinnacle of mankind's achievements. Within those once verdant plains, the people of NAGASH had lived a prosperous life amidst the many rival cities that dot its landscape. Massive temples and pyramids were built to honor the many long-dead priest kings that ruled this ancient kingdom and whose obsession to live forever led its many inhabitants on a dark pursuit for eternal life. Eventually, this obsession with achieving immortality would bring about NAGASH's demise and, from its death throes, the birth of the first vampire. Some 2,500 years before the birth of Sigmar, the ancient civilization of NAGASH dwelt along the banks of the great river Vitae. Of all the kings of NAGASH, none could match the splendor, cruelty, and arrogance of Cetra, the first priest king of the city-state of Khemri. Under his inspired leadership and unparalleled ruthlessness, the other priest kings of NAGASH were eventually conquered and forced to pay tribute while acknowledging Khemri as the greatest city in the land. But Cetra was unsatisfied, knowing that one day death would rob him of all he had accomplished. In his arrogance, he vowed that the grave would not claim him and proclaimed that he would cheat death, setting his wisest and most powerful priests to task working on a means of preventing his passing. Soon, all of NAGASH became preoccupied with death and the afterlife, resulting in the construction of many huge temples and monuments that were meant to honor the long deceased. These huge tombs became so frequent and massive in scale that the rulers were forced to gather them all into massive cities called necropoli. In the end, however, Cetra could not evade death, and after living out the last fleeting years of his extended existence, he was eventually entombed within a vast pyramid. It was unto this culture that NAGASH was born, the brother of the current reigning priest king of Khemri. NAGASH was the first son of his father, the former priest king, and was given to the mortuary cult as tradition demanded. He soon rose to the position of high priest, where he observed the morticians as they prepared the dead for interment and learned all of their ancient magical lore. Yet NAGASH was far south from the northern winds of magic, and he was unable to cast them himself. Frustrated with this, NAGASH went to great lengths to increase his knowledge of death magic, to such an extent that he took to unspeakable experiments in his quest for immortality. When word about this spread, Nearly all the citizens of Kemri shunned him. But just then, a group of dark elves were blown off course and captured by the ships of the Zundri Navy. These prisoners were given to Kemri as a gift to be sealed within the tomb of Nagash's dead father. When Nagash was told by a dark elven priestess that she would reveal all her knowledge of magic to him in exchange for her life, Nagash faked the dark elves' deaths and sealed them within his father's pyramid. Nagash reasoned with his captives. If the Dark Elves willingly revealed and taught Nagash all they knew about magic, he would release them from their prison. During his tutoring, the Dark Elves taught Nagash how to reap souls and use their energy to cast spells of his own without the need to channel the winds of magic. With this knowledge, coupled with many long years of research and experimentation, Nagash would become the founder and creator of a new form of sorcery, which he named necromancy. Even after the bargain was done, the Dark Elves were never seen again. Nagash's experiments met with limited success, as he was able to prolong his life and forestall the effects of aging, but he still could not stop the slow decay of his flesh. He shared his elixir with depraved noblemen, building support for himself before he finally killed his own brother and seized power in Kemri. He and his immortal supporters were tyrannical rulers, slaughtering many of the citizens of Kemri without provocation or reason. With their newfound power, they constructed the Black Pyramid, the largest structure ever built by mankind. Nagash supervised the construction, and although it cost a great many lives to build, the blood, sweat, and souls of those that died were a small price in his eyes. The original purpose of the pyramid was meant to attract as much dark magic into Kemri as possible, using either the winds of magic or the souls of the dead to fuel its growing power. For the priest kings of the other cities, long disturbed by events in Kemri, this was the final blasphemy. Under the leadership of King Lahmizar of the city-state of Lahmia, the other priest kings gathered their powerful armies and formed a coalition to stop Nagash's tyranny. A bloody war broke out, where waves of dark magic surged out from the Black Pyramid and blasted the lands of Nehekara. Once verdant plains of wheat slowly became tainted, and the life-giving waters of the land's many oases grew sickly and killed all that drank from it. After nearly a century of conflict, the armies of the priest kings shattered Nagash's power and sacked the capital city of Kemri. As Nagash fled the burning city into the cold depths of his pyramid, the great necromancer swore to the priest kings that he would return and enact his dire vengeance upon their descendants. The priest kings considered this an empty threat, and laughed as their acolytes found Nagash's disciples within the pyramid and dragged them screaming to be burned and beheaded in the daylight sun. All of the morbid statues and monuments to Nagash's glory were toppled into the sands. The sanctums of the necromancer's disciples were plundered and despoiled. The practice of dark magic outlawed under the pain of death. Yet the agents of the priest kings could not find the renegade himself. Although his disciples claimed to have seen Nagash enter his sarcophages, the coffin itself was mysteriously empty. Unbeknownst to the priest kings, Nagash escaped and rebuilt his power once more. To the far north, he had spent the better part of a century constructing a vast citadel, which he named Nagashizar. Located within a mountain known as Cripple Peak, Nagash sought to take advantage of the huge reserves of magic-saturated warpstone buried beneath its roots to fuel his already formidable powers. The Skaven, also desiring the warpstone, tried many times to sack Nagashizar and take Cripple Peak for their own. After nearly a century of attrition warfare, the war ended in a stalemate, for the Skavens could not overcome the formidable fortress, and Nagash could not drive them away. Recognizing the potential for mutual cooperation, Nagash negotiated an alliance with the Skaven, supplying them with warpstone in exchange for their aid with his plan.